Good evening. I know that it is a rainy Friday evening with crazy Bangalore traffic. Clearly, Dr. Tharoor is still awaited. And that you all could have easily been doing something else or going somewhere else. So, really, a big and sincere thank you to all of you for choosing to be with us here this evening. Today is a unique day, not just because we are here to welcome a special book by one of India's favorite authors, Mrs. Sudha Murty, but because this day has been in the making for a long, long time. Her first book was published 40 years ago, and since then, her books have cast a spell all over the country. As if that wasn't enough, we are going to add a sprinkling of another enchanting and best-selling author, Dr. Tharoor, in some time. And there we'll have this wonderful portion, and my crystal ball says that it will be a magical evening ahead. Now, this book is dedicated to Mrs. Murty's brother, the famed astrophysicist, Professor Srinivas Kulkarni, who is in Caltech, USA, and couldn't be with us here today. But he has sent a star our way, his daughter Maya Kulkarni. Welcome, Maya. Maya, could you just get up and just... You can give it now. All right. Maybe also call Arabi, the girl who sang for us. No, no, okay. Okay. But we are here to get into the world of books and stories. So let me start by telling you one. A long, long time ago, well, 55 years ago to be exact, there lived a 12-year-old girl in Hubli, Karnataka. Now, those were the times when televisions did not exist, radio was scarce, and the only form of entertainment was playing outside with wild abandonment, and there was a lot of freedom from parental supervision. Now, there were also these occasional movies under the watchful eye of parents and mythological dramas with troops that hopped from cities to towns to villages. Now, the girl thrived with each new experience. But even all of these experiences were not enough to contain her imagination. So, she decided to do the only thing she thought she could. She began to write. Every word, every story catapulted her into this whole new world where she could go wherever she wanted to go and be whomever she wanted to be. So she wrote and wrote and wrote. And even before she knew it, she had turned into a woman and a popular Kannada writer. Now, life happened to her, like it does to all of us, and she got married and had 2 children while holding down a job and a husband. A brilliant gentleman who's also here with us today. Welcome, Mr. Murty. This woman even began working at a foundation, but the writing didn't stop. So she continued to write, and life blessed her with so many stories and so many experiences that it came to a point where it couldn't be contained in just one language or read by a restricted audience. Almost as if destiny knew that it was time for a leap, she was propelled into the world of English writing by one fateful meeting, and her first article in English was published in the Indian Express in November 2000. Now, this article set a ball rolling, and that ball has continued to roll for the last 18 years. One book turned... Thank you, George. A special shout out to TJ's George, who might be here today. Now, one book turned into 2, 2 into 10, and requests for translations came rushing in. Her books have now been translated into all major Indian languages, and Italian too. And yet, Mrs. Murthy's heart remains that of the little girl who is completely and utterly in love with writing. Today, she has 29 books to her credit, and this book, her 200th title, is a precious milestone and a true collection of her varied experiences. So just sit back, relax, and just go with it. As the evening unfolds, you will find that in this book, there's a little bit of here, a little bit of there, and a little bit of everywhere. Thank you.
I think that was very well expressed by Shruti Khurana. Moving ahead, we would have the reading of the book that we all are here for today, here, there, and everywhere, by none other than Vikram Sampath. Vikram Sampath is also a renowned author who's authored some of very famous books called as My Name is Gohar Jan, and in Karnataka, the book which has gone really famous, spelled as Splendors of Royal Mysore. So we'd like to invite Mr. Vikram for the book reading session.
Thank you. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I really deem it an honor, a pleasure to be able to start off the proceedings of this evening for someone who's so very special to me. I've called her Sudhaji, but then she's Sudha auntie for me. She's just like my mother. She's someone who's been very close to the family. And Rohan is here as well. Rohan was my junior at Bishop Cotton's. So I think our association goes a long time back. So I really deem it an honor to be here. I thought we'll start with the way the book begins. The book is actually dedicated to Sudhaji's brother. And I thought what better way to start the reading than to invoke that emotion that she's brought out right from the very first page. So this is how it goes. Often I sense that there's a lot of myself in my stories, whether it's my friends or family or the people I meet. However, the experiences that I write about are mine. I cannot dissociate myself from writing about them. This book contains some of my most cherished experiences that are like beautiful flowers to me and have been put together here as if to complete a garland. While most of the experiences are from previously published books, there are two new flowers, one that highlights my literary journey and the other that elaborates on the true meaning of philanthropy. This book is dedicated to my brother Srinivas. Writing about him is easy enough and yet so difficult. I look like him, think like him, read like him, and also eat like him. I have enjoyed his company since the time he was born. I was a second child and he was the fourth. I can spend hours with him without any boredom setting in. Today, he is a renowned astrophysicist who has innumerable awards and distinguished accomplishments to his credit. His work is all Greek to me, just like mine is to him. I think he's extremely focused and absolutely impractical. He doesn't care much about his appearance, social appropriateness, what others think of him, or even the food for that matter. I am much more practical in my approach. In my journey, I have been an integral part of the administration of many organizations. But despite what may appear to be major differences, we both are the best of friends. When Srinivas and I were children, we had decided to memorize a dictionary each during the summer holidays. Srinivas was part of the first batch of a recently formed English medium school in our locality. That school was Kendriya Vidyalaya, so he chose to learn the English dictionary while I defaulted to the one in Kannada. At that time, the children in the family had been assigned the task of walking the family dog. At times, both of us did not want to take him out individually because we wanted to use that time to learn a few more words. After some thought, we decided to walk the dog together in an effort to recite the new words we had learnt and to avoid monotony. During our walks, we did more than what we had planned. I educated myself about Madhyama Yoga that my brother was learning in Sanskrit, and I spoke to him about trigonometry. I was surprised at the speed with which he learnt its concepts, despite the fact that he was much younger than me and that it was not even part of his syllabus at school. At other times, we loved to debate about our differences in opinion on various topics. From the time I can remember, Srinivas has loved his three sisters equally. When he was 16, he had gone to Nagpur for a debate and won a cash prize. With that money, he bought one sari. He bought it back and gave it to the three of us, saying, "Look, this is all that I could afford, and I want all of you to share this sari." Time has passed, and our lives have changed. Still, the four of us are there for each other when things get rough and when happiness abounds. My brother has been living in a different country for the past 40 years, and we meet only annually. But then we remain strongly connected, and he continues to occupy a very special place in my heart. He is caring, but not very expressive, and lives in his own bubble of science and astrophysics, along with stars, brown dwarfs, black holes, and all kinds of other entities. The only gift that I can really and truly give him is this book, a very dear and a very precious part of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram Samvat. And I think once Benjamin Franklin said that either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. Today we have here Mrs. Murty, who's done both. Don't you all agree to that? We would like to have Professor Nisar Ahmed to honor Mrs. Murty on the dais right now. We would also like to invite Managing Director of Sapna Book House, Mr. Nitin Shah, to be present here while we present the bouquet to Mrs. Murty right now.
Give me, sir. Flowers, please. Give me.
ಮೊಟ್ಟಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಿತ ಸಭಿಕರ ನಡುವೆ ನಾನು ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಸುಧಾಮೂರ್ತಿಯವರನ್ನು ಸನ್ಮಾನಿಸೋದಿಯಲ್ಲ, ಬಹುಶಃ ಯಾವುದೋ ನನ್ನ ಜನ್ಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೂ ಇಂಥ ಹೊತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನೆಲ್ಲೋ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಜನ್ಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಒಬ್ಬ ಸಹೋದರ ಆಗಿದ್ದೋ ಏನೋ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ರೀ. ಸುಮಾರು 10-15 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ಸುಧಾಮೂರ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನಾನು ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೆ. ನಾರಾಯಣ ಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕವನ್ನು, ಕನ್ನಡ ಜನತೆಯನ್ನು, ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನು ವಿಶ್ವಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಏರಿಸಿದ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಹಾನ್ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಅವರು. ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಅವ್ರ ಮುಂದೆ ಕೂತು ನಾನು ಯಾವುದೇ ಆಮಿಷಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರೋದಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ್ದೇನು ಅಂದರೆ, ಬೇಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಜಗದೇಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವುದು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದೆ, ಜಗದ ಏಳಿಗೆ ಆಗುವುದು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಿಂದ ಅಂತ ಸುಮಾರು 8-10 ದಶಕಗಳಿಂದ ಬರೆದರು. ಬಹುಶಃ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ನಾರಾಯಣ ಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಕುರಿತು ಭವಿಷ್ಯದ ವಾಚನ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ನಾರಾಯಣ ಮೂರ್ತಿಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಮುಂದೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಒಂದು ನಾಡಿನ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಯನ್ನು, ವಿಜ್ಞಾನವನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೊಂದಿನ ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸಾರ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ. ಅಂಥ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಕೈ ಹಿಡಿದವರು. ಓ ಮೈ ಗಾಡ್.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Shashi Tharoor.
Sorry. 1 minute.
He's fought the rains as well as the Bangalore traffic, both together, and he's amongst all of us here today.
ಶ್ರೀಮಾನ್ ಶಶಿ ಥರೂರ್ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ನಾನು ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಓದ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಈಚೆಗೆ ವೈ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಎ ಹಿಂದೂ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ನೋಡಿದೆ. ವಂಡರ್ಫುಲ್ ಲಿಬರಲ್ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಹೀಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್‌ಪ್ರೆಸ್. ಇವತ್ತು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಮುಖತಃ ನೋಡುವಂಥ ಸೌಭಾಗ್ಯವನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಹೋದರಿ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಹೆಸರೇ ಮರ್ತು ಹೋಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ಸುಧಾಮೂರ್ತಿಯವರು ಕಲ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಸಂತೋಷ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಹೃದಯದ ಮಾತುಗಳು ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲೇ ಹುದು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಸುಧಾಮೂರ್ತಿಯವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಮನದ ಮಾತು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ 100 ಶೀರ್ಷಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಅವ್ರು ಹೊರತಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 100 ಶೀರ್ಷಿಕೆಗಳು. ಒಬ್ಬ ಹೆಣ್ಣುಮಗಳು ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದು ಸಾಧಾರಣ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಒಂದು ಕೊಡುಗೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂಥ ಸುಧಾಮೂರ್ತಿಯವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡದವರು, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದವರು ಅನ್ನೋ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಇದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಹಿಂದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಮತ್ತೊಂದಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಆದರೆ ಮೂಲತಃ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಭಾಷೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಬರಲಿ, ಇಟಾಲಿಯನ್ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿವೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಭಾರತೀಯ ಭಾಷೆಗಳಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳು ಬಂದಿವೆ. 37 ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನು ಬರೆದು ಸುಮಾರು 200 ಶೀರ್ಷಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು ಅವರು ಹೊರತಂದಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಭಾಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕೆಲಸ, ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಯಾರು ಅದರಲ್ಲೂ ಆಕೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿಯುತವಾದ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾಡೋದು ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ನನಗೆ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತಿದೆ. ನಮ್ಮಂಥವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ವಿರಾಮ, 24 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ರಿಟೈರ್ ಆದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಬರೆಯೋದು ಭಾಳ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಕೆ ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ಬರಿತಾನೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದು ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗುಣ, ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗುಣ. ಮನದ ಮಾತು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಪುಸ್ತಕ ನೋಡಿದೆ ಮೊನ್ನೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಸ್ವಾನುಭವನಿಷ್ಠ ಅನುಭವಗಳಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ವಾನುಭವನಿಷ್ಠ ನಿಲುವುಗಳು ಬಹುಶಃ ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹೆಣ್ಣುಮಗಳು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಪಡಿಸಿದ ಕಡಿಮೆ. ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಿತರಾಗಿ ಅವರು ಒಬ್ಬ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನಿಯಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಭಾರತೀಯ ಮಹಿಳೆ ಥರ ಮಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೂ ಮುಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಮಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೂ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇವತ್ತು ಕೀರ್ತಿ ಪಡೆದವರು ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಸರಳತೆಯನ್ನು ಕಾಪಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನೀವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಭಾಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಭಾಳ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು, ಆದರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು, ತಾವು ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು. ಡು ಯು ನೋ ಲಿಟಲ್?
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ನಿಸಾರ್ ಅಹಮದ್.
ಎಸ್, ಒನ್ ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಲವ್ ಮಿನಿಟ್. ನಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಪೆಂಗ್ವಿನ್ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಆದ ಗ್ರಂಥ ಬಾಹುಳ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ವೈವಿಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಪ್ನಾ ಬುಕ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು ಭಾಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಒಂದು ಮೈಲಿಗಲ್ಲು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಎಂಥವ್ರು ಬಂದ್ಯಾರು, ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಶ್ವೇಶ್ವರ ಭಟ್ ಬಂದ್ಯಾರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಅವ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಹುಡುಗ ಎಲ್ವ ವಿಕ್ರಮ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವನ ಪುಸ್ತಕ ನಾನು ಬಿಡುಗಡೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ ಚೆಶೈರಲ್ಲಿ, ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ ಹುಡುಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದ್ದ, ಅದನ್ನು ಭಾಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದ್ದ ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಕ್ರಮ್. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಇವನ್ನ ಭೇಟಿ ಆಗೋದೇ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಸಂತೋಷದ ಕೆಲಸ. ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶವನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ನಿತಿನ್ ಶಾ ಅವರು ದೊಡ್ಡೇಗೌಡನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಕೃತಜ್ಞಾಗಿ ಬಹಳ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಿದೆ. ಶಶಿ ಥರೂರ್ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆಯೂ ಬಹಳ ಮಾತಾಡಿ. ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಟಾಕ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಯು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅನ್ಫಾರ್ಚುನೇಟ್ಲಿ ಟೈಮ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾತಾಡಿ ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸಿಬಿಡಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಮಾತು. ಕಳೆದ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಕೆಮ್ಮಿಂದ ನರಳುತ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ನಾನು. ಯಾಕೆ ಸರ್ ನೀವು ಕೆಮ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಸುಧಾಮೂರ್ತಿಯವರು? ಅಮ್ಮ ನನಗೇನು ಹಾಳಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಶುರುವಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆಯಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಒಂದು ಬೆನ್ನನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, 8 ದಿವಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ನಂಬಲ್ಲ, ವಿತಿನ್ 3 days ಐ ಗಾಟ್ ರಿಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್. ಕೆಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಈಗ 3 ದಿವಸದಲ್ಲಿ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಪಾಲಿನ ಸ್ತ್ರೀ ಧನ್ವಂತರಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸುಧಾ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಕೃತಜ್ಞಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
Thank you so much, Professor Nisar Ahmed. Now amongst us we have the very dynamic, and for many of you ladies out there very smart, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. He's, like said earlier, fought the rains and fought the Bangalore traffic to be amongst us here today. So we would like to thank him from the bottom of our hearts. We would also like to invite the Managing Director of Sapna Book House, Mr. Nitin Shah, to honor Mr. Dr. Shashi Tharoor for his august presence here. So since we have both these wonderful leaders amongst us here today, we would not waste much time but to unveil the book by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the book by Sudha Murty, Here, There and Everywhere.
all the audience has seen are the backsides of the photographers. So perhaps we should let them see the book as well.
Thank you, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Before we move on, we'll just have a small felicitation for Mrs. Murthy here. Yeah, but this is an honor for us to do it once again by our Managing Director as well as Professor Nisar Ahmed to come and do the honor to Mrs. Murthy.
ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳು ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರಮ್ಮ ಗಾಡಿ ವಾಪಸ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ನಾನು ಪ್ರಶಾಂತ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರಮ್ಮ ಗಾಡಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಹಾಂ ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಟೈಮ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಹೋಗೋಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಮ್ಮ ಅರೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ
Thank you. Before we invite Dr. Tharoor to say a few words, I would like to ask Shruti once again to introduce Dr. Tharoor in her style.
Dr. Shashi Tharoor is an award-winning author of 17 books of fiction and non-fiction, including the great Indian novel Inglorious Empire and the recently published Why I Am a Hindu. A second-term member of Parliament representing Thiruvananthapuram and chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, he has served as Minister of State for Human Resource Development and for External Affairs in the Government of India. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Tharoor.
Thank you, Shruti. We will have Dr. Tharoor say a few words before we ask Mrs. Murthy to speak about her book.
Well, good evening, everyone, and I'm very grateful that Shruti, in introducing me, didn't call me the late Dr. Tharoor, but I am late, and I apologize. I came from this wonderful airport of yours, and the heavens opened up when we were coasting along comfortably after 10 or 15 minutes, and thereafter, even on the highway, the traffic ground to a halt, and not even a particularly orderly halt. So I began to despair if I would at all make it tonight, and I'm apologizing to all of you who had to wait, and I am very grateful to Professor Ahmed for having filled the breach so admirably, and to all of you for your patience. But it really is a privilege and a pleasure to be here to celebrate Sudha Murthy's 200th title. 29 books, she tells me, 200 titles because the books have appeared in various editions, translations, and so on. But in many ways, this book is particularly satisfying because it actually is derived from a number of her other published works. And in some ways, it's sort of a weekend Sudha Murty or the best of Sudha Murty because you get a very interesting flavor of her writing style, her concerns, her interests, and if I may say so, her heart. It really is a deeply enjoyable and satisfying book to read. I have to confess that it brought me to tears on a few occasions because it is so moving. She writes, as many of you know, I mean, you wouldn't all be here if you weren't already familiar with her writing, but she writes with great lucidity and great simplicity. It's very interesting because hers are stories which could as easily be read to yourself silently or read aloud. I think that in many ways there couldn't be a better collection of stories to be read aloud, because each story is simple, self-contained. Without exception, every story imparts a lesson, a message. Like the old days when you had to have a moral lesson in the fable at the end of it. She doesn't spell it out for you, but there is always a lesson in every story. And there is not one there that doesn't make you think, doesn't make you smile, doesn't make you feel very deeply moved. And at the same time, what is striking is that every story appears to be a true story. And every single story involves episodes of her own experience, her own life, from various stages of her life. There are stories where she's recounting something that happened when she was a child, and there are stories that could have occurred this year or last year. But at the same time, what you're seeing through these stories is the sensibility of somebody who has truly led a remarkable life. Here is someone who actually had the experience of being the only girl in her engineering college. Can you imagine what it must have felt like? First of all, to overcome the objections and concerns, even of well-meaning family, friends, parents, and so on, to actually go there, because girls didn't study engineering before she did. And then, for example, to be told, sorry, we have no ladies' toilet in this place, which was an eye-opener for her, because neither the faculty nor the students included any women. To put up with various kinds of ragging, inconvenience, teasing, and so on. And finally to emerge top of the class, as well as with a whole set of friends who she refers to as her brothers, whom she stayed in touch with over the years. This is already something quite extraordinary. The second is the writing, because she begins writing early on in Kannada, and she does so with all the pains and sorrows and tribulations that struggling young writers have to go through. Rejection slips, not being paid, not even daring to ask for money for her first book, subsequently having manuscripts turned down, discovering, as it were, the art of writing by doing. I've always felt you can't really be taught to write. It's a controversial subject, and maybe when Sudhaji said she wants a conversation about it, we'll probably have that conversation. But there is really no formula, no recipe. It seems to me the way you write is as much you as the way you speak or the way you breathe. And clearly, if you read the way Sudhaji writes, I think you know Sudha Murty. You know the person, you know the mind, and you know the spirit that animates her interests. She has now written both in Kannada and English. I guess it's fair to say over the recent years more in English than in Kannada, though obviously everything is translated, and I would argue you don't give translators too many headaches, because your meaning is unambiguous and the tone is very, very direct, conversational, and accessible. So that if you want to derive anything from the book, what you read is what you get. You're getting the author whole, you're getting her sensibility, you're getting her feelings, you're getting her opinions when she chooses to express them. They're very clear and very blunt. And at the same time, you have a certain understated humanity that comes through in every single story. It's an extraordinary collection. I think this is the one that, if all of you are too busy to read all her 29 books, this is the one that I would urge you to begin with, and thereafter you will not be able to resist delving into the others. She is here today, so I'm going to really stop and let her talk about the book herself, and enables us to reach out to each other. That is present right through many of the stories. There is obviously a lot of compassion, a lot of generosity, and a lot of philanthropy. That's what she does, that's who she is. But there is also in that process there are also a couple of sharp-tongued stories where she's not very kind about the people she's writing about, nor do they deserve any kindness. But then this is a lady who's kind to strangers all the time. But there are a couple of stories where you'll see why she's not. And all of these elements, it seems to me, are also reflective of the kinds of influences that have made her who she is. So in many ways, this book is partly a step towards an autobiography. I feel I know you almost as if I have read a book about your life, even though that's not what the book is. The book is about people she's met, incidents that have occurred, and each one is very, very well constructed. That's the difference between your grandmother telling you a story and Sudha Murty writing it, because she is a professional writer. And the stories are well crafted. They usually end in just the right way, at just the right point, and often in just the right tone or the right sentence. So I don't want to imply that these are just that simple. There is a certain art in every good writer's work, and that art is there. But honestly, this book can be read by anybody from 10 to 100 and beyond without, I think, any difficulty in feeling the same emotions I felt when reading them, and I believe without in any way diluting the admiration and the respect one has for the very fine human being and the very gifted writer who has produced this book. So once again, congratulations, Sudha Murty, on Here, There and Everywhere. And let's hope the book is read here, there and everywhere. Thank you.
Wow, that was so very well spoken by Dr. Tharoor. And I think the beauty about this conversation right here was that while he was speaking about the book, if all of you would have observed Mrs. Sudha Murty, her eyes were closed as if she was narrating all her stories and all her experiences deep inside within her. So without much ado, we would like Mrs. Murty to come and speak about her journey and felicitate the wonderful crowd amongst us here today.
Good evening to everyone, and ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. On a Friday evening when it's pouring outside a traffic jam, I would not have come. But still I have come, it's my book, and thank you very much for coming all the way. It really means a lot to me. It's very difficult to tell what I really want to tell. Writing is much easier than telling that. However, my love for writing started when I was young, and I have written in my first chapter, The Tale of Many Tales, why I started writing and writing where it took me. And, you know, after 200 titles, out of that, I think there is statistics, which even I don't remember. That's why I put it on the computer, on an Excel sheet, and go and, you know, search, you know, make the entire technology. I use it and find out, okay, how many Assamese, how many Bengalis, how many Kannada, how many Braille, etc. It is not the number, but the joy of writing, that's very, very important to me. Over a period of time, you know, it takes so much time actually to come to this 200th title. In 2007, I had 100th title. In 10, 11 years, I have made another 100 books. That means there are 3, 4, 5 books I might have written into multiplied by 13 languages as early as easy as we can think of. The journey, I really, first of all, before I forget, few things I want to do. In India, you cannot be forgiven for two wrong things if you do anything. One is in marriage card. If you don't give a card, people will remember, in your marriage in 1978, you didn't give me a card. They will never forgive you. Even you are old, you are a grandmother, but 1978, the year you got married, I didn't receive a card. Second thing, in thanking. You didn't thank me on such and such a date, okay? These two are very scary things for me. So let me remember and thank all those people. But before that, I would like to have a small video which my brother has sent and who is very dear to me. Srinivas, I don't want to talk much about him because Vikram has already done. I consider he's one person in my life with whom I can spend hours together without getting bored and be very confident telling you are wrong, and still he will respect me the same, whatever my ideas. And he's a great companion to me in many ways, particularly in the pursuit of knowledge, in language. And I told Sheeni, you must come, but he couldn't make it. He's being a director and the head of the department, and Caltech is a big person. But for his older sister, he said, I will send you a video. Here the video from Srinivas to me. No, Maya is here. Maya has sent his daughter Maya, but Sheeni is Sheeni. So I want to see Sheeni on the screen.
Today we are gathered here for a celebration of Sudha Murty's 200th book. I'm Sudha's younger brother. I'm also a professor of astronomy at the California Institute of Technology, and until recently was the director of the Caltech Optical Observatories. I'm sorry that I'm unable to attend this joyous occasion, and doubly so because Sudha has dedicated this book to me. I'm touched by her gift to me, and so the least I can do now is to give an insider perspective into Sudha's mind with some emphasis on her formative years. We are a family of 4 siblings and separated by 3 years each. Sunanda is the eldest, then Sudha, Jayashree, and finally me. We grew up with no sibling rivalry. Our mother instilled in us a very strong sense of scholarship, and our father a formidable sense of duty. Furthermore, well ahead of their times, our parents let us be ourselves and realize our dreams. Sudha went on to become the first female engineer in northern Karnataka. In my case, my father encouraged me to take the best possible job, even if it meant leaving India. Sudha and I have overlapping interests, outlook, and values. When we were younger, people would comment that we looked alike. Now, that is of course literally skin deep, and I would say probably not very flattering to Sudha. We grew up in Hubballi. At that time, Hubballi had only one library next to the corporation building. At any given time, the library would allow each subscriber to check out only one book. However, Sudha and I had a voracious appetite to read books. So on weekends, we would pack up lunch and then spend the entire day at the library reading up to 6 books. Sudha's love for books has gone beyond reading. She is now writing books at a voracious rate. I have an interesting tidbit to share with you. Sudha wrote a review paper as a part of her final year project at the BVB Engineering College entitled Analysis of Transmission Losses of Power Lines. If memory served me right, it had nearly 400 references. I remember reading that paper and critiquing it for clarity of the English language and some technical issues. As a result of reading that paper, I still pay attention to this subject whenever I see it in the news. Sudha has become even more extrovert than my father, and I have become perhaps the most introvert of the family. Her social work has widened our understanding of this world, whereas I am now fascinated by other worlds. However, we still both retain our love for words and appetite for reading. It's just somewhat different. Sudha is still eager to hear from me the origins of an exotic word in the English language, which I know quite well, and equally eager to explain to me the meaning of rare words in Kannada and Sanskrit, which I don't know quite well. In my field, I'm a prolific writer of papers. However, today, I've not written a single book nor have any plans to do so. You see, fundamentally, the motivation and skill set for writing papers and books is extremely very different. So given that, it is doubly precious to me that Sudha has dedicated a landmark book, a double century, to me. Thank you.
First of all, I want to, in the long journey of 200 books in almost 40 years, I started writing when I was 15 or 16. Smaller, I'm sure as a writer, you start with, in teenage, a kind of an article, distant, romantic, tragedy and all, which I really don't value much now. But it started that way, and my first book came when I was almost 29 or 30. It was my backpack journey in US. Today, nobody will read that book, because it's a girl from Hubli going on a backpack sponsored by Narayan Murthy was something unusual. So my very first book is dedicated to Narayan Murthy, not because you're my husband, because you're my dear friend. That is a dedication I still remember and continue to do so. He's not because he's my husband, I respect as a dear friend of mine whom I know 45 years. So this book was, when I wrote this in Kannada, I was really scared. Who will publish a technical person like me, my book? I don't have any background of literature. but there was a famous writing publication, Kannada publishers place in Dharwad, which is known as literary hub of any Kannada writer even today. That was Manohara Granthamala, and G.B. Joshi was the person, publisher, and he said, don't worry, it's a very unusual book I will do. Today G.B. Joshi is not there, but he laid the foundation stone for my writing and giving me confidence. Even though you are an engineer, you can still write. And his son is here. I'm extremely grateful, Ramakant Joshi, please stand up. He's my first publisher out of my 200 milestones, and thank you very much for my coming.
Publishing his books too now.
Okay, that'll be great.
Why I mean,
Okay. And in year 2000, November 12th, first time I published my English writing. Until that, actually I'm a Kannada medium girl, because I did physics, chemistry, mathematics, everything in Kannada. Up to age of 16, and I did not know to write a single sentence in English in the year 1966. But I started reading English, and year 2000, when I was 50 years old, I started writing English columns. And thanks to George, for a minute, George, where are you? George. George has to get up. You can't say no. It's a George, TJS George from Indian Express. He gave me a big break to write in English and told that is the way, you have to go ahead and write. You are a storyteller. Thank you, George. And I've dedicated one book to George also. I started in 2000. The moment my book came in English, suddenly the translation started in all Indian languages, and I have very good translators there. If you want to have a good translation, you should know that person very well. The person should understand you very well. So in my case, I've been very lucky. I have great translators whom I have not changed since 18 years. And here the Sonal Ben. Sonal Ben, please get up. Sonal is my replica in Gujarati, and she has done all my Gujarati books, and it has been published by R.R. Seth, Navratna Seth and his wife are here from Gujarat and Ahmedabad. They have come. Thank you very much, R.R. Seth family.
One sentence I want to recently I celebrated my 30th book. It's only because of her, because I never wrote anything but some love letters to my husband.